Well, I want to welcome you back and just give you some follow-up on some of the work that's been done since the weekend. We're in another round of play testing. Um, Both innovations and engineers really believe they're on the final iteration. Um, we truly scaled back the innovations, and here we are. Just to give perspective, it is turn 12, which is January of 1942. And with the help of some of my playtesters, the work we did to scale back some of the innovations kind of really shows itself here. Many of the early innovations by the Axis are now going to be superseded by the Allies and their opportunity to catch up now that everybody's in the war. Big push on industrial mobilization and really the armored warfare by the Soviets and the Germans. No surprise there. Aerial warfare by the British, Japanese, and Italians. Really like this step in the aerial warfare innovation. It gives fighters a target selection as if they're fighter bombers. So it's kind of like taking the next step, and many of the countries did, in arming their aircraft with rockets and similar. So that's how innovations is going. A lot of great input. We slowed it down, and it does have some positive impact on technology, but as indicated by like aerial warfare that I just mentioned a minute ago, it has its own impact on the game. And so let's move over here and talk about the engineers and some ways that they've been used. So some ways they've been used. For example, the British produced an engineer. He was at this point early in the game, built these rail. Literally the rail was produced for free by the engineer's presence, therefore paying for the rail kind of paid for itself. Now he can be used for a number of things, including returning artillery and vehicle class units to the fight that have been destroyed, one per turn, which is kind of the refurbishment of destroyed equipment or equipment that's been made obsolete. So they can do some things with technology. A big activity by several of the nations. Let's see if I can find some. Has been construction. So the Germans utilizing the same type of engineer. I'm just using the elite marker right now because there's not a rounder for that, but the construction engineers have built an airfield for them here in Warsaw, as well as they're constructing a fortification. And you'll see that the Russians, let's see if I can, it's kind of hidden, but the Russians built a fortification in Kiev and Smolensk, basically using the same engineer type. The Germans have on the front line, kind of hidden right back here, a combat engineer or sapper or pioneer. He was instrumental in breaching through fortifications in France. And speaking of the fortification in France was built by the French by an engineer. So actually he paid for himself building fortifications in Paris, even though he was destroyed along with the French army when France surrendered. In London, we have both a construction engineer battalion, so those are your CBs, so they're a combat unit, as well as your construction engineers, which is your civilian component. They've done a number of things. The British had moved the construction engineers down here to Gibraltar, and they built an airfield. In fact, this airfield was utilized, these aircraft, to conduct the British attack against the Vichy Navy, which is allowed without a declaration of war. So that airfield has served well. Of course, it'll allow any scrambling that needs to take place. You can see a very strong Italian presence in my game. So the British have, heavily fortified and used that airfield out of Gibraltar. Additionally, now that they've moved back up to London, they've conducted repairs. The engineer construction battalions, the combat units again, they've been able to repair the airfield that the Germans have been bombing, and the civil engineers have been repairing the factories. Now, it's not 100% repair, but their activity has mitigated the costs to the British. So that engineer's paid for himself several times over. Additionally, the British used engineers to build fortifications in Calcutta and in Hong Kong. In fact, the Japanese have not taken Hong Kong yet. And they're currently building here. Same engineer, he just moved around. He transferred between the Far East Command and ANZAC, which is, of course, only the Commonwealth can do that. Now he's building fortification down here in Sydney. The U.S. has been utilizing a engineer construction battalion, or CBs. They're building an airfield. They built a minor port here. I believe this is Guam. No, sorry, Wake. They built a minor port here and now building an airfield. It's 2 steps, so he has to stay there for both steps. A little bit of a trouble, a lot of Japanese surrounding him. That unit may not survive unless, of course, this American fleet comes up to ensure that Wake is not taken. The Japanese not expended in themselves that way. They have taken Guam, but they have not taken. Now, interesting enough, speaking of the Japanese, here in Guam, they've taken the island with an airborne. They landed their heavy bomber with their engineer here in the Caroline Islands, and if you notice, they're building a dockyard. So again, another 2-step, but that way they can perform repairs a little further forward. And just kind of looking at the opportunities between the Marshalls, the Carolines, possibly down here in New Britain, I decided that the Caroline Islands was the right place to do that. Now we'll see, obviously, as the both a sizable, I know you can't see all the units for this, but there's a couple carriers in this carrier group. Japanese have a large navy sitting off of the Philippines, and of course the Americans, which already have large ship construction, mostly from tech rolls, but are making their moves now in the Pacific. So a lot going on with the engineers. That's how they've been utilized to kind of shape the game, reducing the cost of those facilities by 2, reducing the repairs needed for factories and facilities that have been bombed by 3. Our CBs can repair airfields as well as build them, while our sappers, which really only the Germans have been making use of the sappers so far, the sapper combat engineers, they can also repair airfields, but they're the ones that can repair rail. So we'll see if they need to make use of that as they push into Russia, or if Russia needs to make use of that. We'll see if there's any rail destroyed. And then, of course, the civil engineers are construction engineers, represented by my elite roundel, have been all over the map, primarily building fortifications, and in the case of the British, repairing those factories. Now, the one facility that the construction engineers cannot build is a factory, but they can repair. So we thought that limitation would be important as we were playtesting our way through it. So that's our update. This game is over halfway through. Probably get another one in before the end of the weekend because I got some time free, and possibly my neighbor is going to participate in that. So hope you enjoyed this update, and look forward to the potential of this being published in the near future. Thanks.